Oi oi, my name's Alex and welcome back to Toad. This time I'm going to be This is for several reasons. I don't like the legs on the HELBRUTE model that we currently have available. They're short, they're stumpy, they're not very dynamic. Unlike the one from Dark Vengeance, which I don't know why they didn't just release. Anyway, that's besides the point. Secondly, I want to create a more demonic version of a dreadnought. To fit in with the Wordbearer's style. Again, falling under the possession, candles, parchment, and bookish aesthetic that the Wordbearers are known for. I also want to continue on with the Wordbearer's Army series that I'm working on at the moment. I do intend on going on to other Chaos Legions, however, I'm going to finish with the Wordbearers first. I feel like the next best step would be to do a HELBRUTE. As the steps you can do, the steps that I've got planned for this video, you can generally move on and use them in other vehicles, such as a Forge Fiend or a Mortar Fiend. But to talk about the kits we're going to be using, the standard HELBRUTE kit. I hope I put an image here. If not, it might be over there. I'm an idiot. Yeah, the standard HELBRUTE kit, the Chaos Vehicle Sprue, the Raven Wing Upgrade Sprue. Now this may sound strange, but bear with me. And some other assorted bits and bobs, such as books from the Flagellance kit. This is a great source for other Wordbearers kits, as it is full of wonderful bits of chain and books on wooden boards. Just generally, I'd highly recommend, if you're doing a Wordbearer's army, pick up a box of Flagellants, and you can also use them as cultists. But with that, let's get on with the video.
To begin with, I built my HELBRUTE's torso and arms. I chose a melt gun and a power scourge as I wanted a good mixture of damage options. For the first step of the conversion, as I mentioned in the intro, I wanted to remove the stubby legs that came with the kit and create something altogether a bit more demonic. So I turned to the Mortar Fiend kit for this. I took the lasher tendrils and then assembled them like normal. Following this, I then used my pin vise to drill 2 holes in the hips of the HELBRUTE and a singular hole in each of the lasher tendrils. Continuing on, I took 2 paper clips, then bent them so that they had a right angle, and then pushed them each into one of the holes that I had drilled in the hips of the HELBRUTE and cut them to size with a pair of old hobby snips. Following this, I dry fitted the 2 lasher tendrils onto the paper clips, and when I was happy with the length, I applied some chunky super glue to the paper clips and made the join permanent. After leaving this to dry, I mixed up a ball of milliput. I then split this into 3 balls, 1 larger one and 2 slightly smaller ones. I placed the largest ball of the milliput in between the 2 tendrils and then rolled each of the smaller tendrils into a sausage, before then placing both of them on top of the hips, where with a metal sculpting tool that I had lubricated with water, I blended the 3 parts together. Following this, I proceeded to press a series of lines into the milliput, creating an inflamed and striated flesh look. But if you're struggling with this, we will be covering up a large part of this section later on. Before finishing, I also sculpted some deeper wounds or sores into the flesh that you could place wires into if you wanted. I then left this to fully dry for a few hours. As I mentioned in the intro, I dipped into the Raven Wing Upgrade Sprue and found this piece with some parchment attached to a rope. I used my hobby knife to remove any overtly Dark Angels iconography, before then placing 2 brass symbols over the purity seals, in order to turn them into Chaos Parchment. This was then dry fitted to the torso of the HELBRUTE, and when I was happy with the fit, I used plastic cement to attach the parchments to the front of the HELBRUTE. I then proceeded to add a few bits of parchment. The 2 that you're seeing on the screen are from the Free Guild Flagellance kit, as mentioned at the start, and the Zinchian Fate Skinner model. Then, anybody who has been watching the channel in the past will recognise this, but to begin working on the candles, I cut a few rolled out strips of dried milliput down to size and used chunky super glue to affix them to the back of the HELBRUTE. I did 5 candles in total, 3 on one side and 2 on the other. Whilst the super glue was drying, I created a mockery of the Iron Halo, which I believe the Wordbearers would do quite frequently, using 2 spiked semicircles and some extra chains from the Chaos Vehicle Sprue. Once these had all dried, I mixed up a sculpting medium I call Grilliput. This is a 50-50 mixture of greenstuff and milliput. It can have some trouble with adhesion, but you can use superglue to fix that, but otherwise I like it for more organic work, such as candle wax or cloth. I started by wrapping a thin sausage around the base of the candles, before then taking a metal sculpting tool and dragging the Grilliput back up into the stems of the candles, before then doing the same motion and pulling away and into the armour of the HELBRUTE. This creates grooves using a method to imitate actual candle wax. Following this, I placed a blob of superglue on top of the stem, before placing a small blob of greenstuff on top and pulling it into the stem, but creating ledges at the same time, using my little sculpting tool. And lastly, I used the same tool again to push a hole into the top ready for a flame later on. Now, I personally prefer a slightly more over-exaggerated look for my candles, however, you can go for a more realistic look if you'd like. It's all up to personal preference. With the rest of the greenstuff, I then used a Ziploc bag that I had lubricated with water and rolled out a flat rectangular shape on top of it, before then pulling out in half with my fingers to give it a frayed and ripped look at the ends. I then placed each half on the front and back of the waist of the HELBRUTE to create a pseudo loincloth. These were then both pushed into position with the metal sculpting tool that looked like the materials being blown in the same direction as the parchment on the torso. I also lastly placed another bit of flattened greenstuff on the left shoulder pad to again create more parchment for the HELBRUTE, to really accentuate the word bearer's love of not running out of reading material. Once this was dry, I took some scale barbed wire and wrapped it around the waist of the HELBRUTE in order to create a rope of sorts to keep the loincloth on the giant death machine. I used superglue to fix this in place. For the flames of the candles, I took some greenstuff and rolled out some small teardrops in between my fingers. I then placed some superglue in the divots I had made in the tops of the candles earlier, and placed the teardrops with the thinnest end facing up. I then bent it in the same direction as the rest of the moving elements on the model to create a more cohesive look, and again, really accentuate the wind that I wanted to be blowing in this scene. In order to affix the model to a base that I had made for it, I took some more greenstuff, and after working out how I wanted the model to sit on the base, I placed a blob of greenstuff everywhere the lasher tendrils would be touching the base, where I then pressed the tendrils into the greenstuff and let it fully cure whilst leaning up against a surface to ensure it didn't fall over or lose its pose. However, when it comes to painting, I would also recommend covering up the greenstuff in texture paste to disguise it as maybe like, an obligatory tactical rock. But with that, I gave the model a quick paint job, and I was left with this.
And with that, thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you next time where I'll be creating another Chaos Lord for one of the other Heresy Hour legions.